I am haunted by an elephant. On November 11th, 2015, my family and I welcomed my little brother into the world in a hospital room filled with elephants. For 5 months, we had been collecting elephants of every kind, from elephant stuffed animals to elephant underwear, you name it, we had 5 of them. All because 5 months earlier, when we found out the baby was going to be a boy, the nurse performing the ultrasound came out with a basket full of stuffed animals and asked us to choose one to put a recording of the baby's heartbeat in. My sister Isabella chose a blue bear, and my other sister Elia chose an elephant. My dad was elected to be the tiebreaker between the two of them because the baby was going to be his very first son. My dad looked at both animals and he said, on camera, recorded my family home videos for all eternity, I think we should get the elephant because the elephant and the baby both have a trunk. My brother's name was Kai, which is Hebrew for life. But 8 hours and 5 minutes after he was born, I watched him take his last breath. For the first time in my life, I was face to face with death. It was in that moment at 5:08 p.m. on November 11th, 2015, that my phantom elephant introduced himself as grief. Viktor Frankl, a renowned psychologist and Holocaust survivor, once said, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." In the months following my brother's death, why became my constant internal question. I was in 9th grade at the time, and I spent the entire year in loneliness. I didn't tell a soul what was going on in my heart or in my home. Instead, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, I played the part of the star student, the model student council representative, the picture-perfect girl with the picture-perfect life. And so I lived my freshman year completely alone. I wore a mask because I didn't want others to see the ugliness I felt inside. A few well-intentioned individuals attempted to comfort me by saying everything happens for a reason. But every syllable of that phrase hurt every fiber of my being. I called bullcrap on the whole idea because no reason would ever justify the fact that I didn't have a little brother to show off to my friends. No reason would ever justify trisomy 13, the disorder that took the life of my infant brother. No reason would ever justify my pain, my grief, my everything. I was ticked off at the notion that anyone out there could believe such a thing, and so I chose to live life in solitude, completely alone from those around me. But as 9th grade ended, something inside me changed. Why did Kai have to die became why am I alive? Why am I here on earth? I sought the help of counselors who taught me to be in control of my emotions and not at the mercy of them. I began to wonder, what if it was not a counselor's job or a teacher's job or a pastor's job or my parents' job to answer my why? What if I was in charge of my emotions, I could really be in charge of the why too? What if, however senseless my pain seemed, it could all be given a purpose? Viktor Frankl was a witness to one of the worst atrocities in human history. He watched as his friends, his family, his Jewish brothers and sisters were beaten and broken, overworked and overlooked, slaughtered and forgotten. But from his firsthand view of concentration camps, Frankl noticed something. The people that had an answer to why am I here on earth found strength among the ashes. They fought, they persevered, they endured everything. Frankl survived and subsequently spent the rest of his life studying the question why. In his searching, he found the key to the resilience he had witnessed: purpose. My life can be divided into before and after. Before Kai, before grief, before purpose. And after Kai, after grief, after purpose. In my efforts to unlock purpose, I have noticed 3 fundamental changes to my perspective and to my personality that have changed the way I view the world. The first fundamental change has been in my craving for connection. Before, connection meant fun and friendship, love and laughter. It was something lighthearted. It was school, field trips and birthday parties. It was laughing till we peed our pants. It was sarcasm and quick wit. I've always been an introvert, so I was never the life of the party, but before, I always tried to show up. But now I crave something that is much deeper, much rawer. Relationally, I crave connection with the kind of people who never stop asking why. I crave the kind of company that will connect with me beyond the good times.
Connection isn't always fun. Sometimes it's hard work. It isn't always conversation. Sometimes it's silence. It isn't always laughter. Sometimes it's tears. It isn't always happy and carefree. Sometimes it's sadness and grief. In the broader scope of life, I crave connection to something that is bigger than me. When I first started seeking purpose, I slipped into some of my more immature habits. I've always been a rather competitive person. If there was a most or a best or a first, I would want it. But that's not something I'm bragging about, don't get me wrong. It's actually something I'm working on. But trust me, no one is working on it harder than I am. See, when I first started seeking purpose, I started competing with those around me to be the most purpose-filled person on the planet. But purpose isn't a competition because we are all connected. Our individual whys, our uniqueness, creates the collective voice of humanity. And our lives are intricately and immeasurably connected. See, Kai wasn't the only little boy born in November of 2015. My brother shares his birth month with another little boy named Jericho. Jericho and Kai even shared the same due date. My mom and Jericho's mom went to the same elementary school, were members of the same group, which they nicknamed the Fabulous Five. And when they found out their son was going to be born on the same day, they imagined them growing up as best friends, the next generation of the Fab Five. But when my brother Kai was diagnosed with trisomy 13, those dreams came to a screeching halt. But instead of rejecting or resenting Jamie and her son, my mom grew closer to her childhood friend. They shared grief for my brother and joy for Jericho. They chose connection in its most authentic form. For the past 3 years, I have had the honor of watching Jericho grow up into the sweetest, most compassionate little human you will ever meet. And if you ever meet his parents, you'll know exactly where he gets all that compassion and generosity from. Jericho and his family have healed mine like no one else could have. I struggle to tell people how we're related because most people won't understand. But our families are so entwined, it can only be called divine. We are all connected. All because of Kai, all because of life. The second fundamental change has been in my definition of resilience. Before, my idea of resilience revolved remaining happy no matter what happened. I've always been a goal-oriented person, and I depended on goals to bring me happiness. Whether it was making straight A's or deciding to dress up every day for school, goals govern my life. But now I choose to be purpose-driven. The pursuit of happiness does not run my life because I've learned emotions are temporary and often misleading. However, purpose transcends our highs and lows and offers a peace that is constant no matter our circumstance. And isn't it funny how quickly our circumstances change? How fast we go from high to low, how often life repeats itself. See, losing my brother hasn't been my only struggle.
Earlier this year, on January 8th, Jericho was diagnosed with leukemia. Now, I've heard a terrible diagnosis from doctors before. But this year, my family has stood strong next to the Roberts family, loving and supporting and comforting them any way we can. During that first week of being at the hospital, my mom bought Jericho a stuffed animal. Not an elephant, but a lion this time. As she sat at the foot of his hospital bed, she explained how a lion is fierce and strong and brave. How Jericho is like a lion, fighting to scare cancer away. On March 26th, Jericho went in for a standard chemotherapy appointment. His mom promised him a trip to the toy store for being so brave during all this treatment. The doctors were a little concerned he'd have a minor allergic reaction, so they gave him some Benadryl. Jericho fell asleep with the IV pumping chemo into his blood. A few minutes into treatment, Jericho's body went into shock. His heart stopped. He went limp. His lips turned blue. Now, I've seen a little baby go limp before. I've seen a little body turn blue before. I've witnessed a last breath before. But I have never seen anything like what happened to Jericho before. After a total of 40 minutes of CPR, losing his pulse twice, Jericho came back. Jericho is alive today, and it can only be called a miracle. Because of grief, my heart was hollowed out. But because of purpose, I choose to love again every single day. To allow a 3-year-old with curly blonde hair to convince me that love is always worth the risk. That's resilience. The third fundamental change that has taken place has been in how I operate. Before I was frantic. I was easily stressed out. I was a perfectionist, and I had panic attacks when life seemed out of my control, which happened quite a lot because, shocker, this thing we call life is not owned and operated by Alexa Russell. But now I have an urgency. I am focused on my purpose, my calling, my passions. I don't sweat the small stuff because I understand the significance of life and death. Today, I only have a few minutes with you. In life, I don't have time for small talk. See, purpose-driven urgency isn't constantly searching for constant validation. Purpose-driven urgency is self-propelled by the belief that what you are doing matters.
Today I only have a few minutes with you, and in life I don't have time for small talk. I am called to love and to know people urgently, and I must make the most of every moment. My purpose has given me laser-like vision, intentionally focused on the calling placed on my life, ready to make the most of every moment. But the world is also waiting for your purpose, your calling. You have a story. You have a voice. You have a purpose that we desperately need, and no one can take your place. You are not an accident. You are here on purpose. And you must share that with us. And now, to address the elephant in the room, my purpose in life is to write stories. Because 5 days after my brother Kai passed away, I vowed that one day when I was strong enough and brave enough, I would share his story with the whole world. Even when I first made that promise, I knew I wasn't exaggerating. World didn't just mean my immediate friends and family. When I made that statement, I knew somewhere deep down in my soul that I literally meant the whole world. I haven't always understood the purpose in my pain or believed in my ability to pursue it, but I've put one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. It has taken years of work and intentionality, But I am standing here today sharing my story with you because the truth is we are all haunted by our own elephants. Whether yours is named grief or depression or anxiety or suicide or addiction or divorce or cancer or whatever is haunting you. But we can all choose to walk as lions, fierce, strong, brave, living our best life on purpose. Thank you.